confirm the commencement of the broadcast?
The broadcast has now started. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you very much, Will. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of the Planning Committee on Tuesday, the 15th of September 2020. Before we commence with the proceedings, I can confirm that the Council has adopted some basic etiquette rules for its remote meetings, and for ease of reference, these are as follows. Please only speak when the Chairman invites you to do so. Members, please let the Chairman know that you wish to speak through the chat function. The Chairman will introduce speakers in the order that the request to speak is made, unless there is a point of order at which we will give way. Please minimise all distractions while you are in the meeting. Members are asked to mute their microphones when you are not speaking, and consider turning off your video feed to reduce any interference on the audio feed. Please bear in mind that there may be a lag between speakers and other attendees hearing you, so please bear this in mind when you wish to interject with comments. Presentation images will be visible on the screen, and please indicate via the chat function if there is a problem. When referring to reports, please quote the page number and the relevant paragraph number. There is no private business for tonight's meeting. However, please can I remind members that when dealing with private session business items, it is your responsibility to make sure your venue and connection is private. If you lose connectivity at any point and unable to rejoin the meeting, please contact the meeting facilitator. Please only use the chat function for the purpose prescribed for requesting to speak or for a point of order. The chat function is subject to the access to information regimes of FOI, EIR, and is also subject to data protection, rules of defamation, and the Council's Code of Conduct. To assist with managing the chat function for this meeting, the agenda items will be included as markers in the chat function. I can confirm that this meeting is quorum and all members in attendance. The Planning Committee consists of the following members, and they have a prefix of councillor to their names. We have the Chairman, Mrs. Wendy Scattergood, Vice Chairman, Mrs. Ona Parker. The committee is Councillor James Abbott, Kevin Bowers, Tom Cunningham, Patrick Horner, Hilton Johnson, David Mann, Andy Mundy, Frankie Ritchie, Mrs. Gabrielle Spray, Nick Unsworth, Justin Wrench. For this evening of the Planning Committee, we have apologies from Councillor Tom Cunningham and Councillor Nick Unsworth. The officers for this meeting are Chris Padgey, Planning Development Manager, Natalie Banks, Senior Planner, Juliet Kilcody, Planner. Alison Webb is clerk in this meeting and will also be reading these statements during public question time. My name is Emma Wisby and I'm the meeting facilitator. All officers have a prefix of officer. I will now hand over to the Chairman, Councillor Wendy Scattergood, for the remainder of this meeting. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Emma. Thank you very much indeed. Good evening, members and officers and members of the public that are watching us on YouTube. I am Wendy Scattergood and I am the Chairman of the Planning Committee. Can I just remind members that when you want to speak, please notify me on the chat line. I am able to see it more clearly this time, so I shouldn't miss anyone. I will now commence the meeting, and the first item on the agenda is item 1, apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Cunningham, Councillor Unsworth, and I have been made aware that Councillor Wrench is running a little late and hopes to join the meeting as soon as possible. Item 2, declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare the existence and nature of any disclosable pecuniary interest, other pecuniary interest, or non-pecuniary interest relating to items on the agenda having regard to the Code of Conduct for members? No, no one. No one. Item 3, members, I am sorry, but the minutes of the 18th of August and the 1st of September are not yet completed, so we are deferring that to the next meeting. Item 4, public question time. We have no general questions. We will have statements prior to the applications from those that have issued statements. Item 5, planning applications. Members, we do have items in Part B. They are all minor planning applications. They've all come to us because they've either been objected to by the parish councils or the town council. And these could be dealt with en bloc. It's up to members to declare if they wish to. Anyone wishes to move all of them en bloc.
Moved, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ritchie. Does that find a seconder?
Councillor Johnson. Madam Chairman, it's Alison Webb. We do have a statement on the item 5F, Rowan Way.
Oh, I haven't got that. Sorry.
It is, however, Chair, from the applicant
Yes.
in support of his own application. So it wouldn't be contentious if
Mrs.
we.
Scattergood, your microphone is switched off.
Thank you. Well, I'll start again. We could move item 5C, 5D, and 5E. So I'll start again. Councillor Richard, do you wish to move those?
Move again, Madam Chairman.
Thank you. Find a seconder, please.
Councillor Monday.
Councillor Monday, thank you. Members, I have to put that to the vote. Bear with me while I get my list. All those in favour of approving item 5C, 5D and 5E. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Bowers.
For.
Councillor Horner.
For.
Councillor Johnson.
For.
Councillor Mann.
For.
Councillor Monday.
For.
Councillor Mrs Parker.
Or
Councillor Ritchie.
For.
Councillor Mrs Spray.
For.
Yeah, Councillor Unsworth is absent and Councillor Wrench hasn't joined us yet. Members, that is unanimous. And I'll just explain to anyone watching on YouTube, it's quite concerned as to what we have just done. The application 2000228888HH 60 Temple Lane, Silver End, that was the parish council objected to that, but it met our planning policy, so therefore we are able to grant that application. Application number 2000525HH 97 Highfields Road, Witham. The Witham Town Council objected to that, which was contrary to the officer's recommendation. So we have granted that application. An application 2000840HH 20 Brain Valley Avenue, Blacknotley. That was objected to by the parish council, but that also met our planning policy, and we have granted that application. We will wait and have a presentation on 5F when we've completed with items in Part A. So that now brings us to Part A, and the application, first application in Part A is application 2000105 VAR, Highfields Farm, Highfields Lane, Kelvedon. We have no speakers on this application, so we'll go straight to the presentation, and that will be made this evening by Natalie Banks. Thank you, Natalie.
Okay, good evening, members. This application is to vary two conditions from a planning permission granted in 2012 for the erection of a solar park on land near Highfields Farm, Highfields Lane in Kelvedon. This is a plan of the site, as you will see. I mean, some of you members may remember this when it came to committee before. The majority of the site is actually in Colchester Borough Council District. The section of the site we're looking at here is this section, the arrow pointing to it. This is an aerial photograph showing the extent of the site. The site clearly has been built out, and grid connection was made on the 27th of March 2015. This proposal is to what? Oh, where? I can't see where to do it. No. I can't see.
Natalie, to assist you, if you'd like to press Control and L.
That better.
No, thank you. Apologies,
Right.
members. Thank you.
I forgot where I was now. Right, here you go. There's an aerial photograph of the site showing the extent of it. It's been built out, and grid connection was achieved on the 27th of March 2015. This proposal is to vary conditions 18 and 19, which will become new conditions 9 and 10. Condition 19 sought to extend the date when the use had to cease for up to 25 years. The proposal is to vary that condition to allow up to a period occurring 40 years after the date of the grid connection for the development. Condition 19, which will become condition 10, varies the first part of the condition, which deals with the decommissioning of the site, which basically is the first part says when the land ceases to be used as a solar farm or at the end of a period of 40 years from the date of grid connection, whichever is the earlier, the use hereby permitted shall cease. The reason for wanting to extend the time period and related decommissioning is a matter for making better use of the resource that is now in place. The panels have a 25-year linear power warranty, which means that by year 25, they're still expected to be producing around 79.7% of their original capacity. Using a similar degradation rate, this would result in a panel performance of 69.2% by year 40, which is significant. In terms of reducing the overall carbon footprint and life cycle of the panels, this makes some sense in terms of sustainability. The opportunity is also being taken to reinforce and extend the existing planting to ensure effective screening of the solar farm as originally envisaged. Members will note in the report that there has been some concerns expressed that some of the landscaping hasn't been completed as predicted, and also some of it hasn't taken as well as could be expected. This slide here shows you the extent of where hedges will be reinforced or extended to better able to screen the site from wider views in the countryside. This sort of dotted line towards the bottom of the site is a gas pipe, and this line here is a water pipe, and there's also a proposal to extend part of the hedge closer to that feature there. Colchester Borough Council have approved the application as insofar as the area of land that relates to their district, subject to additional conditions set out into the report, which relate to noise and deliveries. From a BDC perspective, they are not considered necessary as no representations or complaints have been made in this district. The conditions would therefore not meet the tests set out in the PPG. No further development of the site is proposed, i.e. no new additional buildings, no new additional solar panels. The likely impact of the development was assessed when the 2012 permission was granted. As previously referred to, it has been recognised that there were shortcomings, and this in terms of the landscaping, and as said before, this will be addressed. In terms of determining this application, we are required to assess whether paragraph 11D1 of the NPPF is engaged, given the close proximity of All Saints Church, which is in Colchester Borough, just to the northwest of the site. The Historic Buildings Consultant has concluded, as before, that the development will result in less than substantial harm. In terms of assessing whether the gains outweigh this less than substantial harm, we consider the provision of renewable energy in terms of the social, environmental and economic benefits carry equal weight when measured against the harm, which is concluded is deemed acceptable. In terms of the planning balance, regard must also be had for the harms and benefits, and in this case, extending the operational life of the solar farm represents a substantial environmental gain in terms of the carbon footprint and carbon emissions resulting from the development. I've put some slides here to show you the extent of some of the landscaping that has already been carried out. These two pictures show Hedge 1 and Hedge 2 in autumn 2019. These have already been augmented in February of this year. And what I didn't mention before as well, all of the existing trees that were on the site have been retained, and further planting has already been undertaken and will be carried forward until the landscaping is completed. So in terms of the heritage balance and our recommendation, the social, environmental and economic benefits carry equal and significant weight in terms of the aims of the NPPF and the policies in the development plan as a whole. When measured against the less than substantial harm identified to the setting of All Saints Church, this is deemed to be acceptable. In terms of the overall planning balance, again, having regard to the same sustainability to benefits of extending the life of the solar farm, this would, in our view, outweigh any harm when assessed against the framework and the development plan as a whole. Consequently, we recommend approval to the variation of these conditions as set out in the report. And I would just point out to members that the recommended conditions would appear different to the original ones, as they have been modified to reflect the operational development that has been completed and the solar farm, and that the solar farm is operational. And there's a couple of photos here which show a view of the site taken from a standpoint within our district. And as you will see, it is slightly visible, but once the hedging has fully grown as expected, it's considered that the site will be well screened. Thank you, members. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Natalie. Thank you very much indeed. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, we've heard that most of this site, the vast majority of it, is in Colchester Borough Council area, and they've found little fault with it and granted permission. I suggest we follow their example. There is the bonus of the revised landscaping scheme, which I think the report says gives an additional 300 metres of hedgerow, and I think our planting will give enhanced screening and mitigation, and it makes it acceptable, I think, in visual and in landscape terms too. So happy to move officer's recommendation, Chair.
But no one's indicated they'll second it.
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Councillor. Sorry, I'm getting used to a new system. So sorry, Councillor Ritchie. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you, but I have got other speakers before we go on to voting. Councillor Abbott.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I too support this application. Happy to vote for it. I was interested to read the technical information about the efficiency of the solar panels. I mean, it's well known they do degrade with time, but the information in the report is that they'll still have over 60% efficiency after 40 years, which is acceptable. I mean, if it was going down to sort of 20%, we might question it, but because it's over 60. So that's good. And clearly there is a pressing need to produce more renewable energy given the climate crisis. And obviously we're hearing about that on the news pretty much every day now. I also agree with Councillor Mann about the welcome enhancement of trees and hedges. There is an issue in that as our weather becomes hotter, and particularly we get these long spells of dry weather, and we're certainly seeing this in the Witham area in the last year, landscape planting associated with planning applications is literally dying. It's not surviving. There's going to have to be a lot more aftercare for these planting schemes. And I don't know about the detail on this particular site, but they simply won't survive, particularly with these hot, dry spells we're getting in the spring. I just wanted to pick up on the conditions, if I may, Madam Chairman. First of all, some of the conditions have the wrong dates in. So 3, 4 and 5 refer to the year 1014. So I don't know if they had solar panels back then. I doubt it, pre pre the Norman invasion. And also, I was wondering about the tense used in those same conditions 3, 4, and 5, where it says shall all the time, but doesn't give a date for when these things have been done. I mean, is it referring to things which have already been done? And then the final thing I saw was, should condition 10 pick up condition 9 in giving and actually explicitly saying what the final date is, which is 28th of March 2054. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I will ask Natalie to come back on that, please. Oh, all right. Natalie lost connection, so I'm going to ask Chris because he heard the questions.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Abbott, for the questions. Firstly, members, apologies on the drafting for conditions 3, 4 and 5. So yeah, that's absolutely correct. Should state 2014. So yeah, would recommend that was amended. In terms of condition 10, sorry, Councillor Abbott, I assume your point is we should be specifying the date rather than 40 years from the date of grid connection, because that is specified in condition 9. Is that, as I understood, how you're?
Yeah. I just wondered if the two should be saying the same thing.
Not necessarily, because it's quite clear.
Yeah, I would say the condition as drafted is clear. It could be amended, but I'm not sure it necessarily would need to be so.
Okay. But thank you for the other ones, which I think are more pertinent.
No, yeah, absolutely. And apologies again, that's just a drafting error. So thank you for spotting those. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Mrs. Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I would also support this application. I think the key thing for me is that the panels have considerable capacity left after 25 years, so it doesn't seem to be any particularly good reason to require them to be removed after 25 years, and seems sensible to extend the period for up till 40 years. The only question I have actually is also on the conditions. I mean, the concern for me was the fact that the landscape, I think this has been in place for 5 years already, and yet the screening, the landscaping screening, which is really important to make to make these things acceptable, is not adequate still 5 years on. So I'm pleased that there are proposals to address those shortcomings, and my only concern was in condition 7, which talks about the landscaping shall be in accordance with the landscaping details, etc. But could we have a time limit on that? In other words, the hedging must be planted. I don't know if it has already been planted, but must be planted in the next planting season, or this planting season coming 2020/21. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Parker. Chris, I don't know if Natalie still hasn't got a connection. I don't know if you could answer at condition 7.
I'm happy to come back, Chairman. In terms of condition 7, we certainly could add something on to that effect, but I may just need to confer with Natalie slightly just on the extent of the additional landscaping that's actually been already completed on the site itself. Otherwise, absolutely, we could amend the wording of that particular condition, Councillor Parker, to include that as an option. If it's possible, Chairman, if I could just briefly confer with Natalie on that point.
Certainly.
Members, I'm just going to place officers into a breakout room so they can discuss. So just please spare me for one moment. Members, officers are just in a private breakout room, just conferring over the points regarding the conditions. So for this point, we would ask you that you don't continue to debate this particular part of the application. We are grateful for your patience while officers just do their period of conferring. I'd ask members just to be patient, and we'll return the officers back to the meeting room as soon as possible. Thank you. Thank you, members. Members have finished conferring from their breakout rooms. So I'm now going to restore the officers back to this meeting. So officers Chris Padgett and Natalie Bax will return. Could you bear with me for one moment, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you for your patience, members. So yeah, in terms of condition 7, it doesn't appear that all of the additional planting has been completed, so we could add that onto the wording of condition 7. And just to pick up on Councillor Abbott's point as well about the concern about whether or not any of the landscaping would take, we could also put on the standard element of wording that we include within landscaping conditions that if any of that planting dies within the sort of the 5-year period, that it could be replaced as well. So we could require it to be put in by the next planting season, and then we've got that additional requirement in that it would have to be replaced in the event that any of the new hedgerow or a section of it, either in full or in part, was to die within that period of time. We could get it replaced. So that would be my suggestion, members, if you're happy on that basis.
Thank you, Chris. Councillor Mann, you moved it. Are you happy with that new condition or additional condition?
Certainly, Chairman.
And Councillor Ritchie, you seconded, I believe.
Yes, Madam Chairman.
You're happy with that as well. All right. Well, no one else has indicated they wish to speak, so I'm going to put this to the vote. We're voting for approval with the additional wording in condition 7. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Bowers.
For.
Councillor Horner. Councillor Horner. You're muted, Councillor. Councillor Horner. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Johnson.
For.
Councillor Mann.
For.
Councillor Monday.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Parker.
For.
Councillor Ritchie.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Spray.
For.
And Councillor Wrench.
For.
Thank you. Thank you, members. That application has been granted unanimously. Before I move on to the next item, just for the public's in reference, when Councillor Wrench joined the meeting, he did indicate that he had no interest to declare. So I just wanted everyone to be quite certain about that. So that's fine. He has informed me that he has done. So I'll now move on to the next application, which can be found on page 21. And this is application 20-00685 full. Single story front extension to Village Hall to create village shop and improvements to former highway forecourt area. Erection of new bus shelter revised scheme. The Village Hall, Braintree Road, Wethersfield. And I do have speakers on this statements on this application. The statements are all going to be read by Alison. And the first person wishing to make a statement, or for Alison to read a statement, is from Mr. Mick Nash. Sorry, I can't even read my own writing. Are you there, Alison?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you.
Actually, the first statement is from an objector, Mr. Nick Godley, for this application.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is the statement of Mr. Nick Godley. Since this project was first mooted, much has changed, At that time, the proposal was relatively modest, but it has since grown into a major project, including the complete redevelopment of the club cellar and a significant extension to the front of the building. Additionally, since the corona crisis, a pop-up shop has been established in the village club, which, although only open for a short period each day, seems to be satisfying the requirements of local residents, and anecdotal evidence would suggest that a majority of local people would prefer to see this shop formalised, which could be done at vastly less expense than the current project. Indeed, a neighbouring owner has indicated that he would be prepared to provide the land required to improve the access for the benefit of disabled people. A survey of passers-by collected 92 signatures of objection to the current proposal and support for the club shop. Almost all local residents fear the effect the development will have on traffic, parking and safety, and are frankly incredulous at the casual attitude of the ECC Highways Department, who seem unaware of the true situation on this forecourt, which is often obstructed by delivery vehicles and poor parking. The proposal will actually reduce both the parking and the space for circulation. Finally, the proposed shop is clearly too small to be an adequate village store. The actual shop is only about 17 square metres, whereas the club shop is over 40 square metres and is already very full. The notion of spending £200,000 or more on providing less than 20 square metres of retail space seems rather absurd. That's the end of the statement. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Alison. We now come to the next statement, which is a statement from Mr. Mick Nash, who is a supporter. Can you read Mr. Nash's statement, please, Alison?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. This is the statement of Mr. M. Nash. Dear members of the Planning Committee, I wish to express my enthusiastic support for the proposals to create a permanent village shop and hub in a modest extension to Wethersfield Village Hall. These proposals have been through many iterations in order to satisfy both safety and design criteria, and these criteria are now satisfied. The proposals will enhance the appearance of the village hall, which has been criticised by Place Services as being in need of a facelift, and the small shop plus other community assets that this modest extension will bring will reach all members of the local community. I am fully aware that there has been some local objection to the proposals on the grounds of safety and confusion about the status of the pop-up shop that was set up on the basement club at the start of the lockdown. On the traffic and safety side, the applicant directly consulted ECC Highways in this case. They have had input into the proposals and their guidance has been followed to the letter. I have confidence in their assessment that a small, mainly walk-to facility added to the village hall will not create an undue hazard, and focusing 3 essential community facilities, hall, club and shop, in one centrally located building makes best use of a location that village members already know well and routinely use. The existence of the pop-up shop in the basement of the village hall has confused locals into thinking that they need to choose between one shop location and another. However, the basement location is not viable long-term and does not have suitable access aside from other statutory approvals that are currently lacking. It could, however, provide a temporary solution to bridge the gap between now and a permanently properly designed facility. One thing the pop-up shop has proven to me is that a shop within the village hall envelope has been both popular and has carried out its trade without any safety incidents occurring. The proposals have been through multiple rounds of refinement with the collaboration and input of the Council's officers and Place Services to make it acceptable in terms of style, size and conservation criteria, and now represents a most welcome addition to the village street scene. This is a proposal designed to serve the needs of the wider community, serving the many, not the few, and so the Council is respectfully urged to follow the recommendation of their officers and allow this much needed facility to proceed by granting planning consent. That's the end of the statement. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Alison. Thank you very much. And we come on to the next statement, and this is a statement from Miss Joanne Littman, and she is a supporter also. Alison, please, if you could read that.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is the statement of Miss Joanne Littman. Dear members of the Planning Committee, I wish to express my wholehearted support for the proposals to develop a permanent village shop and community hub through a modest extension to Wethersfield Village Hall, incorporating the disused and dilapidated bus shelter. Having a shop at the front of the village hall will create a much needed focal point in a space that is currently tremendously underwhelming in an otherwise beautiful rural village. The disused bus shelter is on the wrong side of the road and too far from where the bus stops to be used as intended. The external roadside space is currently an eyesore as visitors arrive at the village green opposite. A shop front located in the disused space will serve as a social and community hub of Wethersfield Parish. We have confidence that a shop will revive our community spirit, enhance the natural beauty of the green, and provide an economic stimulus for the area. The shop will help to support community mental health and well-being. It will provide residents with a purpose to walk to the village green, increasing mobility around the village. It will also provide opportunities for volunteering to work, enabling young and mature residents to interact and support each other and develop new friendship circles and support networks. It will provide essential work experience and confidence building for our younger community members and a renewed sense of purpose to our older residents. CROWS, Community Redevelopment of Wethersfield Shop, committee members represent the demographics of our parish, currently a group of 7 unpaid volunteers. The committee formally established on 23rd of May 2018 by the request of villagers through an informal public parish council meeting. CROWS have established a formal terms of reference with no financial gain to individual members or those associated with the committee. Members have a broad range of experience, including business development, marketing, financial management, project management, building development, training and development, along with large-scale retail experience, which will support the successful outcome of the planning proposals. The survey carried out by CROWS was the first step in establishing local views and support. The data collected was used to form a basis for the initial shop business development plan. The survey headlines indicated 57% will use the shop 2 to 3 times per week, 75% want to buy local produce, 92% want access to postal services, 84% say a shop is essential to our community, 91% want to see the shop as part of the village hall, 81% of the surveys returned are from Wethersfield Village. To take steps to embed the shop as a vibrant hub for the community, it has been agreed it will be run and owned by the community through shares and a volunteer workforce. Extensive research was undertaken through other local community-run enterprises to ensure the shop's viability, along with investment for support from the Blunkett Foundation, who support small communities to set up and develop local rural community shops. The shop will provide local farmers, local producers, makers and crafters an outlet to share and sell their produce, reducing carbon footprint and increasing local economic growth. We also intend to provide an outlet where people can sell products such as surplus homegrown fruit and vegetables and other home-produced items. Environmental benefits will include less personal car use and locally produced food, meaning fewer food miles. Although the shop will be small, we have calculated that it is possible to get 65 running metres of display shelving, which will be 400 deep. Using cans as an example, we could display 12 units of over 200 product lines.
Alison, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but this statement's gone on for far more than 3 minutes. Is there much more?
There's three more short paragraphs.
Thank you.
The shop will also provide wider community engagement through knowledge of local amenities, local accommodation availability, event promotion, ticket sales for local events, displaying and sharing village newsletters from the plethora of committees and societies acting as a showcase for local craftspeople. Any profits will be reinvested in the shop or put back into community development projects. Extra services could also include prescription collection, supporting our local Freshwell Health Centre, lottery, PayPoint, electricity key charging, cash machine, ATM, mobile phone top-ups. Our long-term aim will be to re-establish a full-time post office facility, parcel drop-off and collection point. I respectfully ask that the Planning Committee favourably considers this application and grants permission to proceed to the next stage of implementation. That's the end of the statement. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Alison. The final person wishing to make a statement on this application is Mr. Cliff Stevens. His statement will be read by Alison, and he is the applicant. Thank you, Alison.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. This is the statement of Mr. C. Stevens on behalf of Community Redevelopment of Wethersfield Shop. I would like to thank everyone involved in getting this application to its final stage, despite the difficulties presented by the COVID-19 pandemic. I am pleased and reassured to see that the proposal has received the support of all relevant statutory agencies, and I am particularly grateful for the overwhelming support of the Wethersfield Parish Council, who held an extraordinary meeting at the weekend to allow any remaining objections from the public to be aired and addressed. Two main points were addressed. The first concerned safety. Contrary to a common misconception, the site for our development is actually at the safest point in the village. Most traffic casualties are caused by speed. Traffic coming through the village is naturally at its lowest around the junction formed by the village green. There can be speeding problems elsewhere in the village, as those of us living on the approaches to the village can attest. We expect to make the junction even safer by working with Essex Highways to consider traffic calming measures, including simply changing a give way sign to a stop sign in front of the proposed development. The second issue discussed at the Parish Council meeting concerned the pop-up shop that I and members of the Wethersfield Club Committee supported to help local residents during lockdown. For 2 hours during the day, it has proven to be very popular with elderly residents and those having to work from home. Indeed, a petition that was sent to our case officer indicated that many Wethersfield residents were in favour of the pop-up shop continuing after COVID. This reinforces our own surveys that indicate an overwhelming support for the re-establishment of a shop post office in the village. It is interesting to note that this petition does not specifically indicate that signatories are against the current proposal, but are very much in support of having a shop in the village. At the conclusion of the meeting, parish councillors voted overwhelmingly to continue supporting the application. I and all the supporters of this application are keenly anticipating our village centre once again becoming a vibrant hub of activity, at least in some small way. The eyesore which is in the front of the village hall has been there long enough. People have become blind to it, I think. What we propose will transform the area and complement the beautiful historic buildings around the green. I also wish to thank all those that have taken the time to express their support in an eloquent and well-informed manner. This application is from a group of ordinary residents of the village who despaired at the inconvenient closure of the shop and set about finding an alternative. Nobody involved stands to gain financially in any way. All the considerable amount of work put into this application has been done voluntarily for the benefit of the many, not the few, as said somewhere before. However, I genuinely believe that the proposed development will benefit and gain the approval of all residents in the fullness of time. Therefore, I respectfully ask that the Planning Committee favourably considers this application and grants permission to proceed to the next stage of implementation. That's the end of the statement. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Alison. Thank you. That brings us to the end of people wishing a statement to be read on this application. So we now, excuse me, go to the presentation, which is going to be made by Juliet. Thank you, Juliet.
Thank you and good evening, members. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. So this is an application at the Village Hall in Wethersfield for a single-storey front extension to create a village shop and improvements to the former highway forecourt area and for the erection of a new bus shelter. A previous application for a similar form of development was submitted last year and was subsequently withdrawn following officers' concerns regarding the design and the detrimental impact on the conservation area. This is a revised scheme. The application site is situated within the defined development boundary in the historic village core for Wethersfield and within the designated conservation area. It adjoins a Grade 2 listed building to the north. The site fronts onto an informal car park, which also provides access to Old Mill Chase. Adjacent to the site is the village green and bus stop. This is the submitted block plan. It is proposed that the local community-run shop will be situated in a single-storey front extension to the front of the village hall. It's here. A new replacement bus shelter is proposed as part of the proposal on the opposite side of the road, opposite Braintree Road, on land which currently forms part of the village green. It is proposed to provide a marked out disabled space and 3 cycle racks as part of the scheme. It is proposed that the shop will be open 7 days a week from 7:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday to Saturday and 8:30 a.m. to 12 Sunday and bank holidays. The design and access statement submitted refers to the community consultation process, the public meetings and doorstep survey that has been carried out by the applicants to assess the need and demand for a community shop. It is noted that many of the objectors to the application have referred to the pop-up shop that has been set up in the village hall during the COVID pandemic. Objectors have therefore questioned the need for the submitted proposal for a permanent shop. However, this application must be considered on its own merits, as this is the proposal that has been submitted to the local planning authority for consideration. This is a photo of the village hall as existing. The village hall itself will remain unchanged and will continue to operate as such. The current bus shelter is integrated into the west side of the entrance to the village hall in a 1970s lean-to. The Grade 2 listed building is to the right of the village hall on the photo. On this one, the top elevation is as existing and below is the proposed. It is proposed to remove the current integrated bus shelter, which is considered to be insensitive to the conservation area, and replace it with an extension protruding 2.5 metres from the front facade of the village hall, spanning the width of the frontage. The proposed roof is flat with a height to the parapet of 2.7 metres. The design has the appearance of a traditional shop, with the proposed materials drawing upon cues from the local area, with red brick side walls and a slate roof. It is considered to make an enhancement to the conservation area, and the historic buildings consultant has raised no objection to the proposal. It is proposed to retain the existing village hall entrance, which will be accessed through a deep storm porch created by the extension, with separate access provided into the shop and into the lift area. In this photo, you can see the existing relationship between the neighbouring listed building and the village hall. The existing integrated bus shelter protrudes approximately 1.5 metres from the front facade. As I've already said, this is proposed to be removed and will be replaced by an extension which protrudes 2.5 metres. Therefore, officers consider this is only a slight increase in depth from what is existing. It is noted that the neighbouring bay window may receive less light due to the proposed extension. However, this is not considered to be detrimental given the existing extension it will replace. Due to the proximity of the neighbouring properties, a condition is proposed to be imposed restricting the hours of work during construction in the interests of neighbouring amenity. On this one, we have the existing and proposed side elevation. The existing is in the top and proposed is below. And you can see the bay of the neighbouring, the bay window of the neighbouring property here. There are no windows proposed on either sides of the proposed extension. And this is the proposed and existing floor plan. You can see the size of the village hall itself remains intact. The shop is proposed on the right as you walk in, with a storage area to the back. On the left is the proposed lift, which will provide access into the basement and access into the community social club. The proposed shop has been designed to be on a single floor level to afford DDA access to all areas. This shows the existing and proposed sections. You can see the proposed lift and stairs in the extension, providing access into the basement. This photo shows the existing bus stop adjacent to the village hall on the village green. It is proposed to provide a bus shelter over the existing bench with a public notice board inside. The Historic Buildings consultant has indicated that the new bus shelter is an appropriate response to the character of the conservation area. This photo shows the existing forecourt arrangement at the front of the village hall. It's currently an informal parking layout. This has been a source of concern for many of the objectors to the application, who are concerned that the provision of a shop would lead to more congestion and parking in the area and safety concerns with a potential conflict with pedestrians. The applicant had originally tried to formalise this arrangement of car parking, but this gave concerns to visibility. The Highway Authority have provided comment on the planning application and raised no objection, subject to conditions, which includes a stopping up order to remove highway rights. They have commented that this area should operate as it does currently, as a shared access with the addition of cycle parking and the marking out of a disabled space. Bollards are proposed at the front of the shop to provide a pedestrian refuge and to protect the front facade of the shop itself. So in conclusion, the proposal for a local shop accords with the National Planning Policy Framework by providing a local, sustainable, accessible service for local residents and supporting the rural economy. The design and layout of the proposal will replace an existing insensitive extension in the conservation area and would improve the public realm and create a sense of place. The concerns raised by local residents regarding increased congestion and parking and safety concerns are noted. However, whilst vehicle movements are inevitable, it is anticipated that due to the limited parking, residents may choose to walk or cycle to the shop. When considering the planning balance and having regard to the identified benefits and harms and the requirements of the NPPF as a whole, the benefits of the proposal would outweigh the harms when assessed against the NPPF. It is recommended that planning permission is granted subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Juliet. Thank you. It's very detailed, very interesting. Councillor Mrs. Spray.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Well, I note the enthusiastic support of the Parish Council for this application, which is nice to see, and some very positive statements read out this evening. I thought Mr. Nash made some excellent points and some a very detailed statement from Mrs. Lippman. Everybody has mentioned, and it comes across quite strongly in the report, that this will improve the appearance of the village hall, and that is, you know, to be recommended. I'm pleased to see that the aim is that this will be run and owned by the community via community shares and run by volunteers, and this is something that we know works well in other places in the district. We have community run pubs and community run shops where volunteers largely take charge and do an excellent job. So I think that's something very, very much in its favour. There were concerns expressed about parking and highways and traffic issues, but I think those have been successfully answered in the report, and highways, subject to the conditions that they have put forward, don't make any objection. I think for me it's just really good to see that when so many villages are losing their facilities, losing their pubs and village shops, here we have one coming forward as a permanent feature, which is going to improve the appearance of the village hall and benefit the local community. I really think this is an excellent application, actually. I'm very happy to move officer's recommendation for approval. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Spray. Does it find a seconder before I
Councillor
move on?
Johnson.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Do you wish to speak?
Thank you. Well, I fully endorse the comments put forward by Wethersfield Parish Council. I was fortunate enough to live in the village for some 22 years. I moved into the village at the time because it was fully equipped with shops, a post office, garage, pubs, everything you could want. Sadly, everything has disappeared. And I think this application for the future, this may be the future for a number of villages, could provide great and developing benefits. I fully endorse it. It stops people like myself having to drive into Braintree, etc., cuts down the carbon emissions. It all sounds very good to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Johnson. Councillor Abbott, please.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. Yes, I fully agree with the two previous speakers. It's good to see a community initiative like this, and absolutely right that we have to do everything we can to keep our village services. In Rivenhall, we still have a village shop. It's just about the only public service like that we've got, and luckily it seems to be doing well, but I appreciate lots of other villages have lost their facilities, so it's really good to see this initiative. But just a couple of points of detail. I mean, obviously this is going to be subject to successful negotiations and applications to the County Council about the highways rights issue, but I won't delve into that now. The 2 points of detail I had were on the little roof area with the upstand on it. It said it's going to be slates. I don't know if that's a planning issue or whether it's a building control issue, but slates can only function down to a certain angle. If you go down too shallow, they'll let water in. So I just flagged that up because I don't know what the angle is. And the second thing was in informative 7, and I have emailed to Chris Padgett this afternoon, the reference to 1 lux to disturbing bats from the ILP report is wrong. It should be 0.2 and 0.4 depending on the plane in which the lux are measured. So I think if we're going to refer to that document, I know it's anorak time, I appreciate that, but if we're going to refer to the document, I would think we should refer correctly to the levels. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. I'd ask Chris to come back before I move on to Councillor Mann. Chris, would you like to respond to Councillor Abbott, please?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Abbott, for the question. We have checked with the Council's ecologist this afternoon, just in relation to the concern to informative 7. The advice we've received, which we've been able to get a quite quick notice, effectively what the ecologist has said, and perhaps it's easier actually if I just read out the comments that have been received back. There is no set guidance provided for the bat conservation, provided by the Bat Conservation Trust, apologies, to avoid impacts to foraging and commuting bats for all species of bats. However, we advise that local planning authorities adopt the minimal requirement of 1 lux level, in brackets at 2 metres above ground, in environmentally sensitive zones as a precautionary approach. This is because it is effectively the same as twilight when bats emerge and is the minimum level of lighting required to avoid impacts to roosting, and I can't pronounce the name of the particular bat, which is the one which is most light sensitive bats that we have in Essex. I think the point that Councillor Abbott you were raising relates to a different particular type of bat which is not present within Essex, and therefore the advice from the ecologist remains obviously advised that less illuminance would be required for this scheme if this particular type of bat was to be present and affected. However, as this is not the case, the wording of the informative as recommended is considered to be appropriate. So that's the advice that we've had back from the ecologist this afternoon. It is obviously a informative as well, so it isn't a condition. It is only advice to the applicant, but that's the response we've received from the applicant. From the ecologist, apologies, in relation to that specific concern over the lux levels. So that's the only response I'm able to offer this evening on the basis of the exchange of emails that we've been able to have this afternoon. I hope that's of some assistance.
Could I come back on that, Madam Chair?
Yes, I was just going to invite you back.
Well, I disagree. The ILP BCT report is the official national guidance. It's quoted by the government on their website, and it clearly says that to avoid disturbance, the optimum that you can get down to at zero, I mean, getting down to zero is almost impossible, but the measured optimum at zero is, as I quoted, 0.2 and 0.4. I've never heard an argument that because a particular species of bat might not be present in Essex, that requires a higher level. I'm quoting direct from the guidance, and I think we should stick to it. And furthermore, just for everyone's interest, 1 lux is 4 times as bright as a supermoon, the brightest moon we can get in the UK. It's actually quite bright, and it's much brighter than any light a bat would naturally encounter at night. The emergence of bats in twilight is an interesting point, because actually a lot of bats feed at night. They don't just emerge, they actually feed throughout the night. So I would stick by what I said, that the guidance should be compliant with the ILP BCT guidance. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Abbott. Councillor Mann.
Thank you, Chairman. Lighting apart, we appear to be in agreement with each other here. This would seem to provide a facility that would appear to meet a local need. I'm pretty sure that the majority of villagers would prefer some shop to no shop. And I think this has an added benefit in that it does improve the very appearance of that site. Very interesting, the remarks of the historic buildings consultant, and the development doesn't, I think, in any way harm the conservation area, which is this heart of the village. So very, very happy to support the application, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Councillor Wrench.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Yeah, I agree with most of the comments that have been raised already, and I believe that the benefits do outweigh the harm that there is. I just would like to refer, I think it was slide 6, Juliet, on your slide. You mentioned, it was just a phrase that you said, that it may result in some loss of light to the neighbouring property. How far out will that come out in front of that bay window? And do you have any further information in to what that may look like in that loss of light? How significant will that be? Thank you.
Would you like to respond, please?
Yes, thank you. It comes out an additional metre from what's there at the moment. So it would be it's proposed to be 2.5 from the front facade, and at the moment it's 1.5.
Yeah, so how far would that overhang that bay window? Do you have any measurements on that? Is it going to be in line slightly, or will it overhang that property?
Sorry, I was on mute. If you go back to slide 7, which I can share if that's okay. Just bear with me a second. Can you see that okay? You can see this shows the sort of how much further it will protrude out. I don't know the exact distance, but that sort of gives a visual sort of image of what it would be.
Yeah, I'm struggling to see how far out that will be from the neighbouring property, because how much light they will lose. I can't picture that at the moment currently on that.
Have we had any objections from the neighbour?
Yes, we did. Yes, the neighbour did object to the application, but I believe the comments were more in relation to the parking issues. No.
Does anyone else wish to add anything further? Chris would like to come back.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Just to try to assist Juliet, just and coming back on that point, Councillor Wrench, that you've just mentioned, I'm just going to attempt to see whether or not I can actually share the site plan, which might show the relationship slightly better. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, I'm just going to try to share my screen. Here we go. Hopefully this plan appears. So this will show, and Juliet will correct me if I'm wrong here. So we've got the front extension here. We've got the neighbouring property, and you can just make out the bay windows at the front there. So you can see the relationship between the two properties. So there is a slight gap, but as Juliet's explained, it will project further than the existing the bus stop at the moment, and that probably better shows the relationship. There was obviously the photographs within the presentation that shows it, but that probably shows the relationship a little bit better. As to the orientation, obviously you can see the north point here on the plan, so the direction of the sun of the point is going to, if you can see my cursor, will go round at the bottom. So I think we're saying we're not saying that there would be no impact of the proposal. I think the judgment we've come to is that the impact is not so detrimental that it would warrant the refusal of permission in this particular case, owing to the fact of the existing structure, how far it already protrudes from the facade of the front elevation, and the additional distance we'd be talking about for from the front addition. So hopefully that's of some assistance, Councillor Wrench, to the question you've raised.
Yeah, that's really helpful actually to see. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Councillor Mrs. Parker.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The only thing I just wanted to say really was to acknowledge the concerns of some of the residents about parking. I suspect if the village shop ends up being used by people who are driving along that road, there may be a small issue with parking, and I do think that it is a valid concern. But obviously, we have to be guided by highways. They are happy with what's being proposed, and I do, for the reasons that have already been expressed, think there are substantial benefits, substantial policy support, and I think those far outweigh concerns about parking. So I'm happy also to support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mrs. Parker. Well, no one else has indicated they wish to speak, so I'm going to put this to the vote. This application is for approval. It has been moved by Councillor Mrs. Spray and seconded by Councillor Johnson. Councillor Abbott.
For.
Councillor Bowers.
For.
Councillor Horner.
For.
Councillor Johnson.
For.
Councillor Mann.
For.
Councillor Monday.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Parker.
For.
Councillor Ritchie.
For.
Councillor Mrs. Spray.
For.
And Councillor Wrench.
For.
Members, that application has been granted unanimously. Thank you very much, and thank you, Juliet, and thank you to everyone that submitted a statement. That now brings us to the final application this evening. And the application can be found on page 63. Bear with me, my hands are so cold I can hardly turn the page. This is an application, and the application number is 20010117HH. It's a single-storey rear extension and single-storey front extension, 14 Rowan Way, Witham. And I have a statement from the applicant, Mr. Lee Virgin, and this application is statement is going to be read by Alison. Alison, are you available, please?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. This is a statement by Mr. Lee Virgin. My name is Lee Virgin, the applicant for the extension on 14 Rowan Way, Witham. I wish to clarify a few things associated with my application, including the report on our property, item 5F on page 63 of the agenda, and Witham Town Council's comments regarding overdevelopment and design as per policy RLP 17. Regarding overdevelopment, our planning officer explained that although she does not agree, Witham Council's issue is with the proposed rear extension. This extension would be filling 6.84 square metres of a 9.48 square metre void in our garden created from the original build. The void is a small three-sided concreted space located between our lounge and downstairs toilet walls and fence. Due to it being enclosed, small and tucked around the corner, it's of such a style that sitting there is not desirable in comparison to the larger garden space in front of the lounge. It has therefore been used as a dumping ground for the last 14 years. Our previous neighbours at number 16 also discussed the wasted space of this area in their garden. The proposed rear extension is small, and if approved, the new garden space will be 56 square metres. The garden will be landscaped with Italian granite slabs and pebbles from the house edge to form a patio, and as the extension is over 2.5 square metres smaller than the void we don't use, we would actually be gaining over 2 metres of usable external space from that area. I do a lot of walking and see other local houses with smaller gardens where extensions have made a vast visual improvement to the existing property, one of them being 9 Oak Fall, to which Witham Town Council also objected. Likewise, our extension will improve the appearance of our property and allow us to gain some extra space both internally and externally, and enable us to utilise an area of the garden that has been an eyesore for many years. Regarding the front extension, we can fit 3 cars on our drive. The proposal is a small size and located in driveway space not used for parking, so there will be no loss of spaces. I'm unsure how filling these areas, both front and back, are considered overdevelopment rather than an improvement to a tricky space in the back and use of ample space in the front. I'm also concerned that when a number of houses look run down, as 9 Oak Fall did prior to its extension, the potential visual improvement to a property can be easily overlooked. Regarding the design, both extensions are small, but enough to give us some extra space desperately required for our current living situation. We discussed the proposed rear extension with number 12. They are happy with the design and thankful we consulted them for their opinion and preferences. We opted for a roof style that would not overpower their garden space and a render finish as per their preference. This area is unseen by anyone else. Despite our needs due to our personal situation, we reduced the front extension to single storey as requested by our planning officer, copying the design used on numerous properties on the street, and again opted for a render finish to improve on the existing rendered areas and give it a cleaner look. Regarding report 5F in the agenda, the site history on page 64 lists a number of associated planning applications. These are not for this property. The only 2 relevant are those dated 27th of May 2005 and 30th of March 2006 revised version to add a bedroom, dining room and shower room. Please note, of these applications, the dining and shower room were not an extension but a conversion of the garage, and the bedroom was an extension above the existing flat-roofed lounge. Therefore, the previous extension mentioned in the report was not a double story as suggested. We have never extended anywhere on this property other than above the original flat-roofed lounge that protruded into the garden. It was that design of the original house that produced the leftover space to the side of the lounge that we wish to extend, not any previous development carried out by myself, and as such I do not agree with Witham Council's overdevelopment concerns, particularly as the area of their concern is a small extension in a badly designed, unused space, and the remaining garden, including its usable area will be vastly improved. I hope this clarifies any concerns. Thank you for taking the time to discuss and consider this application. That's the end of the statement. Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Alison. Thank you. I think Chris is going to make the presentation of this one. Thank you. Over to Chris. We have no more statements.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Let me just share my screen. Just while I'm waiting for that to load. In terms of the point raised during the statement by the applicant there in terms of the planning history, with apologies, there is an error on page 64 of the report. There are a number of applications as mentioned which have been linked to this particular application site that actually relate to other properties. I can't offer an explanation as to why that has happened, but I will take that back with our admin team to see whether or not we can review the database. So it looks as though the UPRNs for the address points have somehow have been merged or linked with other properties. So we'll take that back to correct it. But yes, the two previous applications were from 2005 and 2006 as mentioned by the applicant. So the proposal is for a single story rear and front extension. During the life of the application, the proposals have been amended following advice from the planning case officer. The application site is at number 14 Rowan Way in Witham. So if I just take you through the plans, you can see the location plan there, number 14 being the application site. At the front of the site, you have the actual driveway. The shaded areas on the plan show the extent of the single-story additions being proposed. And the other key thing to note is that number 12, the adjacent property, projects forward of number 14 as well. And again, the block plan. And then in terms of existing and proposed, so the existing plan at the ground floor is on the left-hand side, the proposed is on the right-hand side. And again, you'll just be able to make out the front addition and the rear addition that has been proposed. And again, just showing the first floor, so this shows the extent of the roof additions. And then the elevation. So again, left-hand side is the existing, right-hand side is the proposed. So front extensions can actually be quite sensitive additions to a property, particularly existing property. In this particular case, although it does project from the front of the property, you've got the return of number 12. So in terms of street scene, actually, I would agree with the applicant's view, which this would actually improve the appearance, the existing appearance of the front of the property. It would be a fairly small scale addition in keeping with the host dwelling, and you know, attempt has been made in terms of matching the window positions up as well between the ground and first floor as well. And then the rear elevation. So again, you can see there the existing and the proposed. So you can see the slightly blue tinted addition on the proposed side. And then the side elevations. And then the roof form. So in this particular case, it's considered the size and scale of the extension is in keeping with the host dwelling. It's not considered that it would be detrimental to neighbouring residential amenity. And as mentioned in the report, and also as mentioned by the applicant, officers are satisfied that sufficient parking would be retained at the front of the property. That would be, it would still remain in accordance with the standard. So it's on that basis we're recommending that planning permission is granted for the proposal, the revised proposal that's before you this evening. Happy to answer any further questions, Madam Chairman.
Thank you very much, Chris. It doesn't appear that anyone wants to speak on this item.
I'll move it, Madam Chairman.
You're going to move it, Councillor Abbott.
Yeah.
Thank you. Does it find a seconder?
It's a second.
Thank you, Councillor Mann. Anyone else wish to add anything before I put it to the vote? It has been moved that we grant this application by Councillor Abbott, seconded by Councillor Mann. I'm going to put it to the vote. Councillor Abbott?
For.
Councillor Bowers?
For.
Councillor Horner?
For.
Councillor Johnson?
For.
Councillor Mann?
For.
Councillor Monday?
For.
Councillor Mrs. Parker?
For.
Councillor Ritchie?
For.
Councillor Mrs. Spray?
For.
And Councillor Wrench?
For.
Thank you, members. That application has been granted unanimously. Members, that brings us to the end of our planning applications for this evening. Thank you all. I thank everybody for submitting their statements, and I thank those that have watched on YouTube. It's quite a short meeting for us this evening. I just want to remind members we have a meeting again next week. So we'll be meeting 3 weeks on the trot. Don't forget, please. Thank you very much. And I say good night and thank you, and thank all the officers that have helped with this meeting. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Mrs. Scattergood. Before I ask the webcaster to terminate this broadcast, I'd urge members to complete the short web-based survey that we'll be emailing you shortly. This survey is very important to us as it enables us to improve our meetings as we go forward. I'd also like to remind you that the Council will be retaining performance data relating to your connections to this meeting. This is held in the event that there is a legal challenge to the way that we are holding these meetings. Thank you very much for bearing with us this evening and for your attendance, and good night. Webcasting officer, please can you confirm that YouTube broadcast has now stopped?